Good morning, everyone. Please be seated. My name is Gail Simmons, and I have the privilege of serving as Hofstra University's Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs, and also as Professor of Biology. Today, I also have the great joy of serving as Master of Ceremonies and of welcoming you to this convocation to name Hofstra University's School of Engineering and Applied Science in honor and memory of Fred DeMatteis. I am pleased to welcome members of Hofstra's Board of Trustees, Leonard Shapiro and Jerry Kremer, members of the DeMatteis School's Advisory Board, Bruce Lister, Casimir Skripczak, and Jim Nolan, many alumni, friends, the faculty, and students of the DeMatteis School, as well as a special welcome for many members of the DeMatteis family. At Hofstra, we regularly gather with pomp and circumstance to welcome each class of first-year students and to celebrate commencement as our students complete their degrees. Today's gathering is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for a special ceremony as we celebrate a generous gift that allows us to name one of the schools of Hofstra University. And now, to begin our program, it is my pleasure to introduce the Dean of the DeMatteis School of Engineering and Applied Science and Professor of Engineering, Dr. Sina Rabbani.
Good morning. On behalf of students, staff, and faculty of the School of Engineering and Applied Science, it is my great honor to express our deepest gratitude to Mrs. DeMatteis and DeMatteis family for their extraordinary vision and generosity. Your support will truly make a difference for our students as Hofstra embarks on a new era in scientific education. It will enable the growth and consolidate the strengths of the engineering and computer science program at our school for the benefit of generations to come. This reflects the dedication of an exceptionally accomplished visionary. Fred DeMatteis was a creative thinker and a diligent worker who achieved extraordinary success and embodied the spirit of engineering design as reflected in the skyline, both in the United States and around the world. President Rabinowitz will tell you more about Mr. DeMatteis' remarkable achievement, and I will focus my remarks on the school and its goals. One of the essentials of good engineering design is integrity, wholeness. Design must conform to a plan and serve a purpose that harmonizes the natural world. Bridges are the canonical example. A great bridge, such as the Verrazano Narrow Bridge in New York, appears like an almost seamless extension of its environment. It does, of course, fulfill the utilitarian purpose of carrying vehicle traffic from Brooklyn to Staten Island. But it also has the power to move an observer to pause and admire its beauty and marvel at the ingenuity of its designers and builders. There is true artistry in bridge design, and aspiring engineers should have some familiarity with the masterpieces of art and architecture. Theo Jansen, a Dutch artist who built kinetic sculptures, once said that the walls between art and engineering exist only in our minds. So good engineering is not just about cleverness, analytical skill, but also about knowing how to put a variety of skills to use in harmony with nature. What is in a name, and how does it affect us? Certainly a name should reflect the vision of who we are as a school, and the name of Fred DeMatteis is emblematic of those practitioners of engineering who over a long and distinguished career have valued talent and hard work, promoted innovation, and provided accountability in their projects, thereby delivering products that meet and exceed customers' needs. His is in a name we can proudly display on our school as an inspiration for this and future generations of young, aspiring engineers and computer scientists to emulate his many contributions to society. This leads us to consider our mission as an institution. The mission of the School of Engineering and Applied Science at Hofstra is to educate and inspire engineers and computer scientists to be creative, entrepreneurial, and prepared to tackle critical global challenges. We produce mathematical ninjas who are logical thinkers and are creative problem solvers. The efficiency and convenience of our modern lives are made possible by engineers. Engineers and computer scientists design and develop the hardware and the software that help enhance our quality of life, the technologies that keep us safe and make life more convenient, the tools that entertain and connect us with one another, the systems that transport us across the world, and the structures that give us shelter. The late Leo Marx, a history professor at MIT, argued that technological innovation is probably the major driving force of human history. Marx proposed that technology used to be associated with the object, such as printing press, microscope. But today it's about the process. Today we would call texting or GPS a technology. Our cell phones and the satellites that make these technologies possible are now just another tool. This shift in collective conscience has led us to forget what makes technology possible. It's the people. On a similar note, science fiction writer Arthur Clarke, whose blend of scientific expertise and expressive imagination helped launch the space age, once said that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. As scientists and engineers, we are not trained to study magic. As scientists and engineers, we instead use the insights that one needs to be a magician and leverage that with scientific method, much like magicians learning instantly to see the truth behind any colleague's illusion. Clarke, who's regarded as one of the most influential science fiction authors in history of the genre, went on to say, most technological achievements were preceded by people writing and imagining them. He wasn't wrong. But my message today is perhaps best communicated in the words of Leon Sprague de Camp, also a writer of science fiction, as well as an aeronautical engineer, who said that the story of civilization is, in a sense, the story of engineering. That long and arduous struggle to make the forces of nature work for man's good. At Hofstra, we subscribe to this vision. Over a very short period of time, we have created a vibrant new school by building on the existing strengths of an outstanding institution of higher education and partnering with other sciences and liberal arts programs within our institution. Together, we were creating engineering and computer science curricula that connects our students to industry, bridging theory to application, and encouraging research and innovation while making significant beneficial differences in our region and globally. Many stakeholders from a variety of fields have provided input into our school. We are by no means an academic ivory tower, but a school in constant touch with the needs of society and industry. This fall represents our 5th year as a School of Engineering and Applied Science. During this relatively short period, we have experienced unprecedented growth and diversification in what was formerly 2 small programs in engineering and computer science. We continue to register growth in all our academic majors, with current number of full-time students at over 700 as compared to the 300 matriculated at the school inception just 5 years ago. The stereotypical engineer and scientist is often characterized as lacking people or social skills. Yours truly excluded. Solely being characters, obsessed with the technical side of a project. But modern engineering education has quashed that need. Our intern class now experiences a 2-semester sequence of courses in which they become fully cognizant of all the stakeholders in a variety of representative engineering design scenarios. They also learn to navigate the internal dynamics of the team interactions and to manage the external demands of customers and other members of society affected by the project. Time has changed since the days when I was a college student. Although the amount of hard work we put in has remained constant, we pored over textbooks, which weren't as expensive as they are now, did calculations and drawings by hand, and went on to the library to look things up. At this point, our students probably think I'm a dinosaur. Now all these tools are at the student's fingertip, but proximity and ease of use do not guarantee an understanding of the significance of what information is out there. Excuse me. Gifted, see, I'm old. Gifted educators are still key, and that is where my colleagues on the school faculty come into the picture. Our forward-thinking professors and the opportunities they offer our students personify the intellectual curiosity and practical experiences that they share and bring to the classroom and laboratories every day. In recent years, a number of our students have chosen to matriculate in our co-op education experience by taking a paid real-world engineering and computer science working stints. This experiential learning is already paying dividend in providing opportunities for students to broaden their perspectives and in matching aspiring yet technically proficient personnel with companies that are always in need of hiring new talent. Another advantage we provide to our students is the opportunity to experience serious scientific research while working on a bachelor's degree. These motivated student researchers show that there is more to an education than just completing coursework to meet degree requirements. They experience the thrill of extending knowledge beyond what's available in textbooks and the satisfaction that you're achieving your potential through hard work and dedication, which happens to be the theme of my remarks today. Carrying a name also gives recognition to what we do as a school and to our standing in the wider community. It gives expression to the fact that we are already making a mark on society, in particular through our alumni dating back to the creation of our engineering and computer science programs almost 60 years ago. Many of our alumni have become distinguished professionals with outstanding accomplishment, and I want to thank them for having been a part of our history and a part of our future as well. The transformative nature of this naming for our school will allow us to become more prominent, give us the courage to pursue more ambitious goals, and ultimately to successfully train the next generation of engineers and scientists who will find creative ways to apply their training to discover, to invent, to create, and to build in our world. And rest assured that we are determined to make a difference. This is a commitment we make to you, to our students, and to our respective disciplines. We as the faculty see the intellectual and personal growth of these students over their years here. The students are now at the start of a career in sciences and engineering. We applaud them for their success in getting to where they are now and look forward to learning from them as successful alumni. Fred DeMatteis worked very hard in his chosen profession and created lasting monument both in his engineering structures and in his philanthropy. Similarly, the faculty and the staff in the school now bearing his name are committed to the challenging work of preparing succeeding generations of graduates for their careers and hope to pass to them the spark of inspiration and dedication that his life and career epitomized. We and they know it takes a lifetime of hard work, but like Fred DeMatteis, we also know that it is rewarding work and the world at large is the chief beneficiary of that hard work. With more comfortable living conditions, better communications, and greater access to knowledge for all people being the result of all that hard work. Benjamin Franklin said, "We enjoy great advantages from inventions of others." We should be glad to have an opportunity to serve others by any inventions of ours, and this we should do freely and generously. So think big, students. What will your innovative inventions do for society. And so to Mrs. DeMatteis and DeMatteis family, whose generosity and is the reason we gather here today for this celebration, the milestone in the history of the school and Hofstra University. On behalf of all present here, the faculty, administration, advisory board members, alumni, and friends of the Fred DeMatteis School of Engineering and Applied Science, I thank you.
And now, please welcome the Honorable Arthur Jerry Kremer, member of the Hofstra University Board of Trustees.
Thank you, Provost. Thank you, Dr. Rabinowitz, and faculty, and the students. I have a few warnings that I have to make in advance. Some of this material will be like they call inside baseball. It will be very familiar to the DeMatteis family, but to others it may not. But you'll get the gist of what I'm talking about. One of the advantages, I guess, to being granted with extra years in your life is that from time to time you get called upon to say some fitting words about somebody who you came to know and to love, and to Nancy, Scott, Richard, Linda, and Tracy, and the family and friends. We thank you for the enormous gesture that you've made towards Hofstra. A lot of people here in the room may not remember when we had magazines. There was one many years ago called the Reader's Digest. And one of the features of the Reader's Digest that I always look for was the one under the topic of the most unforgettable person I ever met. And so Fred DeMatteis fell into that category in my life and in the life of so many others. Back in the days when politics was a blood sport in Nassau County, as opposed to being a bloodier sport today, I was this young, budding, Democratic elected official who befriended a lifelong, hard-to-the-core Republican who basically said, "Kid, I need to talk to you." And so I'm not quite sure what kindled the relationship, but periodically the phone would ring in my office, and we were over in the EAB Plaza, as I still called it, and the secretary said, "Mr. DeMatteis wants you now." Okay, and everything dropped, and up we went to the tower. And I sat down in Fred's office, and I said, what's up, Fred? He said, "Well, I want to tell you about somebody who really aggravated me last night." He says, "And I've got to talk about it. I really got to let you know, who it was." So, needless to say, I was a sounding board in his political life and occasionally in his business life. This is going to come as a revelation to Nancy and to the boys and the girls, but I'm the only owner of the full DeMatteis library on the issue of lawyers. I have all the volumes that Fred ever gave me, starting with Kill the Lawyers by his dad, Lawyers and Sharks by Frank Mundus, a complete compilation of lawyer jokes, Evil Triumph Over Lawyers, and a few others. No doubt if Fred was alive today, he would be promoting Bill O'Reilly's new book called Killing the Lawyers. Over the years, I got to know a lot of Fred's, how should we say, pet peeves. He always resented his architect taking credit for the design of the building. As Fred used to say to me, EA Plaza is my building, and he said he was always unhappy with his architect. He complained to me, a Democrat, about the Republicans were holding him up from building another tower over at EAB Plaza. He made a few unkind remarks about various politicians, but in view of the fact that they're no longer on earth, I will not discuss any of those names. He had a great dislike for the New York City political establishment. He had an especial dislike for somebody by the name of Elizabeth Holtzman, who he and I shared the same dislike, so who was the city controller. And now I must tell you what type of trailblazer Fred was. Others will claim today that they are the original creator of certain concepts, but Fred is by all recollection the earliest person to ever been highly critical of Donald J. Trump. No audio tapes, no interviews, just Fred used to give me his off-the-cuff opinion about Donald Trump. I love Fred's discussion about the building that he created, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which he used to describe the only building with an art collection in the basement. And that was his favorite thought about it. I have to confess, too, because today, in our world, as President Rabinowitz knows, and the lawyers here know, that we don't talk about insider trading. But Freddie once said to me during one of those urgent meetings, "Kid, buy Home Depot stock if you do nothing else." And so the kid listened, and needless to say, it had a great impact on my life as I moved forward. So Fred was indeed the only and the best financial advisor I ever had. I learned a lot of things from Fred about the building business. I never knew what the terms construction managers meant, traffic hotspots, and something he talked to me years ago, which many people today are taking credit for, and that's design build. The concept of one entity not only doing the design but the construction by one contractor. If you're familiar with the job on the Tappan Zee Bridge, that is a design build project which is moving very quickly. But Fred, once again, so far ahead of his time, would always talk about concepts today that ring so true because he understood what the first step towards having a better future for New York State. The DeMatteis family enjoys another reputation that a few of us in this room especially can appreciate. Companies come to Long Island and they grow and they prosper and they move to Pennsylvania and they move to Florida and they move down to DC and they move to North Carolina. The Elmont family, the DeMatteis family has started in Elmont, has been in Elmont, continues to be Elmont. And if you want to talk about local loyalty to the community, this is a family that started where its roots was and continue, if you will, to honor this tradition generations later. I want to say something to those of you who will teach here and are teaching and the students who are here. One of the my personal pet peeves is that I can meet students in New York City and I will say to them, do you know who Herbert Lehman was? That, you're going to a city college school, Herbert Lehman? No idea. You will ask them about other famous names who grace the halls of so many distinctive buildings and public works projects. Do you know who Nelson Rockefeller was? No, absolutely no idea. So the message I want to give to those of you who are the students and to the faculty and the people here, that this is not just another naming of another building to perpetuate the name of a person. Hofstra University has a unique reputation in that the people who are generous enough to offer to put the name of somebody special all represent some particular contribution that's been made to society. So to those of you who go back into that building today, and in the future will see Fred's name emblazoned on that building, remember that this man was a pioneer, was a visionary, understood the business, was a man of high ethics, a man who set a high bar for everything he did and was always over that bar. So this is typical of the kind of things that we at Hofstra University are fortunate to do. But the DeMatteis School of Engineering represents the name of a man and a family and a tradition that you can go forth and be proud of because of the many contributions that he made. I also can't forget the fact that there was never a conversation with Fred where there wasn't some comments about all good ones, Nancy, the boys, the girls, the grandchildren. He was the role model for what today we would call a great family man. So truly for me, it's an honor to be able to have some recollections about Fred DeMatteis, who truly was the most unforgettable person I ever met.
Thank you, Trustee Krimmer. It is now my privilege and pleasure to introduce the president of Hofstra University, Stuart Rabinowitz.
You know, I usually go first at these kinds of events, but somehow I wound up going last because we have a presentation. It's a long story, but you know, I just agree with everything that's been said. I should just sit down. But I guess I can. And you know, it's such a pleasure to see just the sheer number of people in this room today. When I was accorded the great privilege of becoming president of the university, and I was the dean of the law school, and I'm a lawyer, wasn't a lawyer, I've recovered from that. But the two departments of engineering and computer science would have taken up just the reserve seats here in the front. And to see the job that the faculty and the dean has done in building the faculty and building the enrollment of students is just breathtaking. And I know Bruce Lister, it was about 3 days into the presidency when he started bothering me about creating a school of engineering and applied science rather than having two separate departments. But Bruce, you and I have come a long way in terms of the school. So this is a convocation which, you know, dates back centuries. As an academic tradition, we have our robes on, and we have we walked in a processional, but it was just sort of a stroll down the center aisle. And we have all these gonfalons. We're going to have to stop creating new schools soon because the gonfalons don't fit on a regular stage. But all of this sort of regalia are meant traditionally to commemorate significant events in the history of an academic institution. And as the speakers before me have said, today is a defining moment for Hofstra University. In our only 80-year history, and that's 80 years is a drop in the bucket for academic institutions. In our 80-year history, we have grown from a very good local college to a university which is known and respected, not just nationally, but internationally. And during the past decade, the science and engineering programs at this university have played a central role in our evolution. So as you have heard, just 5 years ago, we decided to bring together two academic departments, engineering and computer science, to create a school of engineering and applied science. The reason we did that was we listened to what the outside world was telling us. And what they were telling us is that there was a need for more engineers and more computer scientists because they are essential to the 21st century economy. And so we created the school to do that. Now, Dean Rabani, and I mentioned it, he's an engineer and he made 2 jokes in his speech. But Dean Rabani has very eloquently pointed out and made the case for engineering and computer science at Hofstra to be special, what makes them special. And he talked about the environment at the school. And we were able to create the environment, state-of-the-art facilities and laboratories, as a result of funding made available by public funds. The Empire State Development Corporation with the approval of our governor and our state representatives. And the public supported this school because their policy matched ours. The public policy of the state of New York is clearly to increase the number of engineers that we educate and computer scientists that we educate who will help us take our regional economy and the national economy to the next level. We need to train dynamic, innovative, and entrepreneurial scientists. And so now today, as we pause to consider what has been recently and will be even more in the future the central role that this school has come to play at Hofstra University. We named the school for Fred DeMatteis, who, as the prior speakers have told you, was a visionary, certainly an entrepreneur, and a leader. And it is entirely fitting, so appropriate, that we name our innovative program at Hofstra after one of Long Island's great innovators and builders. Fred joined his family business after he returned from World War II, Purple Heart and presidential citation in hand as a testimony to his valor and his service to his country. And with Fred at the helm, the DeMatteis Organization flourished in post-World War II America and reflected the great growth in New York City, but also here on Long Island, America's first suburb. The DeMatteis Organization is responsible for so many buildings I can't list them all, but some buildings that really make New York what we think of when we picture the city. The residential tower over the Museum of Modern Art, Knickerbocker Plaza, the residential complex of Rupert Yorkville Towers, as managing the construction of 100 United Nations Plaza. Here on Long Island, every day I come to work, which is 6 days a week. Every day I come to work, I have the opportunity to see the DeMatteis stamp of excellence and innovation when I drive by, sometimes slowly because of the traffic, RXR Plaza, formerly known as EAB Plaza. Clearly a signature building and the heart of Long Island's corporate and commercial real estate. That he developed millions of square feet of residential and commercial real estate here on Long Island and in New York, well, that's a well-known fact. But I want to emphasize that Fred DeMatteis was much, much more than a successful businessman. He actually lived a life which I think serves as a great example to all of us. Even while he was building all those buildings, he and his wonderful wife, Nancy, who, by the way, I'm proud to say is a friend of my wonderful wife, Nancy, and I, even while they were doing all of that, they always devoted time and resources to numerous charities and organizations, ones that supported education, funded the arts, improved health and human services, spurred on important medical research, and promoted social services, often benefiting those in need. And we at Hofstra were smart enough to recognize his service to the region by awarding him a Presidential Medal in 1985. Even with his countless obligations, as Jerry has pointed out, Fred DeMatteis was first and foremost a family man who lived a life worth emulating. And that is most evident perhaps in how he shared his life with his wife, Nancy DeMatteis. So when Fred was busy leading the board at St. Francis Hospital, Nancy DeMatteis was a full partner with him in that enterprise, a philanthropic leader in her own right, and responsible for the strengthening of the Guild at St. Francis. And under Nancy's leadership, the Guild became one of New York's most successful hospital auxiliaries. In fact, Nancy began the annual St. Francis Golf Classic, to which I should be invited, Mr. Chair, which is now in its 42nd year. Her influence can be seen also in many, many other charitable endeavors, including the West Hampton Beach Performing Arts Center, which is quite successful. In 2001, Fred and Nancy DeMatteis founded the DeMatteis Family Foundation. And it is in the work of that foundation that we can see Fred's legacy made long-lasting through the work of Nancy and their children. The mission of the foundation mirrors the work of Fred and Nancy, the work that they did during Fred's lifetime. Simply stated, to make life better by serving human needs. Nancy and the foundation continue and expand upon the work that Fred began all those years ago. And so we are so proud to name the Fred DeMatteis School of Engineering and Applied Sciences for a man who gave back, a man who innovated and helped build this island and indeed the city of New York. And we are confident that, as Jerry said, not only will our faculty and our students, current and future, know who Fred DeMatteis was and what made him great, but we are confident that the spirit of both Fred and Nancy will infuse this school for generations to come. So I am pleased and proud to acknowledge the contributions that began with Fred and continue today through Nancy and the children. I will in a moment ask Nancy DeMatteis to join us on stage to speak just for a few moments. But first I want to read the inscription on the commemorative gift. Very heavy. Hofstra University greatly acknowledges and recognizes Nancy DeMatteis for her outstanding dedication and generosity, presented at the Convocation establishing the Fred DeMatteis School of Engineering and Applied Science, dated October 20th, 2016. Please join me in welcoming Nancy.
On behalf of our family, I'd like to thank President Rabinowitz, Provost Simmons, Dean Rabbani, Trustee Kremer for all of your kind remarks today. I have prepared remarks here about Dad, but you've all heard about them from the other speakers. So I decided to go off script a bit and share a few thoughts. Many of you students here don't know, but in the 50s and early 60s, Fred built public schools, elementary schools, middle schools, high schools. So many of you engineering students have probably gone to some of those schools that he started his career building. Locally, Division Avenue and Trusper Clark are two that come to mind as I stand here today. Engineering is hard work. I am a graduate engineer, and in spite of other comments, I can make jokes too. I truly appreciate your jokes. Architects can't do it alone. They all like to take the credit. Jerry was making some remarks about Dad's thoughts about architects. You must work hand in hand with them. Your imagination lets their pretty pictures come to life. Just talking about EAB Plaza, which is a landmark building in its time in the early 80s. When Fred was thinking about developing it, one of the first things that came to his mind was what it could do for the community. He wanted to develop a Rockefeller Center style complex here on the island that people from this community, his community, could enjoy for lifetimes. So we're sitting around in his office and he talked about the skating rink and provisions for a tree and the ceremony and fountains that people could sit and have lunch at. And the design was coming into play. So the architects had presented pretty pictures of the facade, and there was maybe 8 or 10 of us in the room, and Fred was looking at the pictures, and he said, "Oh, what do you think, and what do you think?" And everybody gave their opinion of which style they preferred. And he says, "Okay, that all sounds very good. We'll do that one." So now everybody leaves, and I'm sitting there as a young man. I said, "What was that about?" He said, "Richard, some days we count the votes, and some days we wait." Innovation in that building, engineering innovation. 4 interior columns around the center core. Post-tension engineering at its finest. Open floor plans, 30,000 square foot floors. It makes the building work the way it works. It's fantastic. Use your imaginations. That's what you must go forward and do. Absorb the faculty. These are young minds that absorb what you have to offer them. Students, you'll get out of it whatever you put in. Fred set the bar very high in his career on anything. Mediocrity was never permitted. Live your lives that way. Be successful. Give back to the community. Thank you.
Thank you again to the DeMatteis family, most of all, and also to our speakers, to our faculty, and to our students who I hope will remember the significance of this day well past your graduation date. On behalf of everyone here, again, our thanks to the DeMatteis family. This concludes our ceremony. I thank all of you for your participation and invite you to join us at the University Club for a reception. Please will the audience remain in their seats while the platform party leaves the hall. Thank you all.